none of the expenditures with this police fund seem to be anything special that needs a special sales tax. To me, it seems like the preferred city staffers continue to get more and more and more and more and more money on the backs of citizens.
I don't know what he's seeing that the rest of us aren't seeing up there, but I can tell you that for many years it's been just like that.
Howdy, I'm Justin Pulliam. Assistant City Manager and Police Chief Joe Salvaggio is next in line to be City Manager in Leon Valley, Texas. The Salvaggio political establishment continues to hike up taxes and government revenue schemes to fund a bloated police department. It's approximately doubled in size under Salvaggio, and with the addition of the fired bad cops from San Antonio, it just keeps on growing. To make sure his favorite police officers have huge salaries, they utilize a special sales tax. By the way, Salvaggio does pick favorites, and he's been counseled on that before.
Hello, board chair and crime prevention board members. I'm Justin Pulliam from Fort Bend County, and what I wanted to discuss, and if anyone has information about what I'm going to bring up, I would certainly appreciate answers to the questions I have. But my understanding is that the budget for this used to be $340,000 a year, which funded the salaries for 4 police personnel. And that was in 2018. And now in the 2020 budget, it's gone up to $360,000, and at that, bringing the fund balance down from $150,000 to $50,000. So not only a huge deficit, but with that $360,000, it's now only funding 3 personnel. So it's gone up in expenditures with the revenues shrinking, and even at that, I think that's a very I think the revenue estimation with the crisis and everything is quite positive. I think it might not actually raise that much money in the next budget year. So it's going from $150,000 to $50,000 at that, but only for 3 personnel, where it used to fund 4 personnel. In the PowerPoint we're about to see, I think it's saying that this is to have the big city police resources that small towns might have. Do other small towns that don't have this not have patrol officers and assistant police chiefs? Because none of the expenditures with this police fund seem to be anything special that needs a special sales tax. To me, it seems like the preferred city staffers continue to get more and more and more and more and more money on the backs of citizens. And I guess maybe if there's a new city administration, you aren't going to have much money to work with in this, but maybe that's okay, because the new city council could just get rid of the sales tax and help everyone out a little bit. So my question is, what in this is so special that is really needed? To me, it just seems like it's preferred police salaries and a lot of money that just isn't there. Thank you, board.
Thank you. All right, appreciate your comments. Anyone else?
By state law, the sales tax is supposed to be used to fund a special crime control and crime prevention program, rather than just being extra slush funds to fund the regular police department activities. But I noticed that it was being used only to fund the positions of routine police salaries. I hope that Joe Salvaggio would answer my questions and explain the program, if one even existed as required by the state law.
So the Crime Control Prevention District is a special purpose district that was created for the purpose of improving the crime prevention and reducing crimes. In 1989, the Texas legislature recognized that some of these smaller cities that were encompassed by these larger cities have the same type of problems that the larger cities have, but don't have the resources to deal with them. The legislature passed this Crime Control and Prevention District Act to enable the cities to create this district to collect sales tax to dedicate to the crime control and reductions. On November 5th, 2013, Leon Valley voted to create this district, which was a 1/8 sales tax. And on November 6, 2018, the citizens voted again overwhelmingly to continue the district. So the citizens of Leon Valley fully support this type of program and have for the last 7 years. So proposed for fiscal year 2021 budget is an operating expenditures of $368,071. The vast majority of that is for the salaries, but we do have other things that are not listed up there that are included in that, as far as some contracts and some additional overtime and things like that. And the operating revenues that we currently have is $273,100. You can see the budget from fiscal year 18-19 through now. As you see, the numbers trended downward as far as your beginning fund balance. We always show a much less budget at the end of the year, just like we do at 53,000. And like we normally do, we end up with something considerably more, and we expect that again this year. Our differences this year we reduced was about a 10% reduction, because we don't know what COVID's going to bring, especially since this is a standalone sales tax, and it has to specifically be for the specific purposes it was created for. The finance department decided that we would do the best we can and show a 10%, and then we can pray and hope that it's going to be much better than that in the future. So you can see our expenditures and our total expenditures, and so at the end of the next year, if we spend everything that we plan on spending, which we never do, then we will still have a balance in there of $53,773, and probably much more than that. Don't want to work. But that's the end of the presentation, ma'am. I'm stand for any questions.
Surprise, surprise, he didn't answer any of my questions, and he did not explain the program. Probably because one doesn't exist. It's just another way to milk the taxpayers so the pigs can line up at the trough.
If there's any questions from anyone in our chambers this evening, we go to our citizens first before we go to our council. Any other questions on the crime prevention budget? Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you. Justin Pulliam, Fort Bend County. So I've spoken citizens to be heard. I'll speak now on the agenda item. We heard again that this is supposedly for the big city resources that these enclave towns might need, and most towns don't have this. So I still wonder, my question is, do other towns not have assistant police chiefs and police sergeants? And if so, how are they funding this without these positions, without a special sales tax? My question hasn't been answered. What special resources are here? And then I'll just go ahead and sit down. My second question is, why does it cost more and more money for fewer and fewer personnel at the city? And those are my two questions, Mayor.
Mayor and Council, it's easy to get up there and say that most cities or some cities or all cities do or don't have something. I do not know what the cities have and what they don't. I'm not doing a poll. Our citizens have voted for this and believe in this tax and are willing to give this tax and have for the last 7 years. So I can't really address whether some agencies have something or don't have something. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on things because that's really not my job.
Only around 15% of Texas cities have this sales tax, and most cities in Bexar County do not. Salvaggio goes to state conferences and monthly police chief meetings, yet he doesn't know what other cities do? Okay, if he says so. But should someone who is self-admittedly ignorant about major policy issues be city manager? I think he actually said that it wasn't his job to know these things.
So I can't really address whether some agencies have something or don't have something. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on things because that's really not my job. As what was the second question? Why is it going down? It's been 3 officers for quite some time.
Why can't they tell the truth at Leon Valley? In their own documentation, they assert that up until September of last year, the sales tax funded 4 police officer salaries, and for less money than they're paying for 3 positions today. Look at these numbers. It went from $84,000 per employee in 2018 to $120,000 per employee in 2020. That's $35,000 more per officer. Wow, that's freaking insane! The residents are struggling, yet Salvaggio's political establishment continues to line the pockets of tyrant cops.
It's been 3 officers for quite some time. Our plan is and have been to move more and more officers out of it as the cost of doing business escalates each year. What it covers is decreasing.
Oh my gosh. The cost of doing business? Are all of the city administrators at Leon Valley drunk? Leon Valley Police is the government. And it's costing more because his preferred officers are drawing enormous salaries. Now, if we want to talk about real businesses, the cost of doing business are going up because of Salvaggio's Gestapo tactics. Let me explain this table. The actual column is what was actually spent and received in that fiscal year. The budget is what they do in advance. The estimate is for this year. The fiscal year is almost over by now. So they have a good idea of what it will be once the actual values are known. This is weird though, because normally you would see a year-to-date actual instead of just an estimate.
As the cost of doing business escalates each year, what it covers is decreasing with overtime, with the officers paying the increases that you, the council, and our citizens so greatly give us. And so I don't know what he's seeing that the rest of us aren't seeing up there, but I can tell you that for many years it's been just like this.
Okay, so this tax has been used to fund these positions since
7 years, long before I got here.
That's
yes,
correct.
ma'am.
And so I guess what I heard you say, and I think I saw it on the chart, is that we've estimated the sales tax lower.
10% lower.
Because of COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why it's looking like we're having such a small reserve balance at the end of this.
Well, each year we project a smaller reserve balance than what we end up with, because we project high and on what our costs are going to be, and then we plan for a little bit lower than what we think it's going to be, so we can deal with things like COVID coming along without going in the red.
Huh, how about that? An extra lie for my report. There's so much wrong with what Salvaggio just said. He's been draining the account every year since he's been in Leon Valley. He claims that they underestimate the revenue. Another lie. In the current budget year, they budgeted $3,000 more than the actual revenues from the previous year for a total of $305,000.
We always show a much less budget at the end of the year, just like we do at $53,000, and like we normally do, we end up with something considerably more, and we expect that again this year. Each year we project a smaller reserve balance than what we end up with.
There's now a huge budget shortfall, over $30,000 less than what was budgeted. I thought Salvaggio said that the reserve always ended up being bigger than what was budgeted. Yet the reserve this year is $40,000 less than what was initially budgeted. And they didn't adjust next year's budget down from this year's estimate. It's exactly the same. Even if Salvaggio's magic numbers play out, they're set to spend a $100,000 deficit this upcoming year, drawing the account basically dry.
And then we plan for a little bit lower than what we think it's going to be, so we can deal with things like COVID coming along without going in the red. And so that's a norm for us, just like with the regular budget. You see that same system being utilized. So do I think it's going to end up at $56,000 next year? No, I think it'll be considerably more than that. But we need to plan. We have a desire to plan for the best we can for our citizens, so that we're not overspending the resources that they so greatly have given us.
We give them money? I wonder what would happen if I sold merchandise in Leon Valley and I didn't pay my sales tax. The money is collected by force, and the city administration is wasting it. But Salvaggio has a history of disregard for the taxpayer. After a lengthy legal battle, the city of San Antonio was required to make him a police captain, even though the city law capped the number of police administrators. Ultimately, Salvaggio got a special position and the taxpayers had to foot a $177,000 bill. Perhaps he wants to be city manager so he can make those big bucks again.
But we need to plan. We have a desire to plan for the best we can for our citizens so that we're not overspending the resources that they so greatly have given us.
Okay, very good. All right, I have another question, but I'll let the citizens continue. Yes, anyone else who has a question? Chief Salvaggio on the budget, the crime.
City Martinez, Seneca. One of the things that with the crime control, the money can be used for education, for pamphlets, flyers, and I would like to know, other than salaries, what has the money been used for?
Ma'am, for the beginning, it's been used, the vast majority of it's been used for salaries. We have used for overtime. We do have some contracts that we put in there that in case they come to fruition, right now we're getting charged nothing, that we could utilize the money for that. If we do training, we can utilize the money for that, but we haven't utilized that for the last couple of years for training. So this year, just like last year, it is predominantly almost all salaries, overtime, and pretty much that's it.
Thank you.
Now, I gave Salvaggio a chance to come clean before I published this report. I requested from the city last week a copy of all of the body-worn camera videos that showed Salvaggio lying at the meeting. They didn't send me anything, but they stopped short of saying that he did not lie. Instead, they claimed that they determined that my request was unclear. When I asked who determined that and what was unclear about my request, they ignored me. That kind of treatment is pretty typical from the entitled government staffers who are sucking the productive people dry. Then I asked all of you, was my request unclear? Over 1,500 people voted, and 88% of you understood exactly what I was asking for. And since Leon Valley failed to ask any questions about my request, they probably understood it too. They're just playing tyrant games like they usually do. What do you think? Was Salvaggio merely ignorant of the facts? Or was he maliciously lying like so many police officers do? He claimed it's not his job to know about these policy issues. Whether they lied at the podium or they lied on paper, the top Leon Valley administrators continue the culture of deceit. Should someone like this be city manager? Does Leon Valley deserve more years of lies, secrets, and abuse? Leave a video comment below to share your opinion. If you'd like to know about all of the latest Leon Valley news, please subscribe to my channel and enable all of the notifications. Government actors often lie, so be sure to always record them. Thank you for watching and have a great day.